Hi guys, my name is Haley Rich. Excuse the fact that I'm sitting in my car. It is the quietest place I could find in my house today. But the two questions I am discussing for our discussion board are: what are the 5 most prevalent issues in marriage counseling, and how do you deal with the differences between biblically acceptable marriages and modern marriages? According to Craig, an Introduction to Christian Counseling, the 5 most frequent issues dealt with in marriage counseling is failure to communicate, an inability to move from intimacy to distance back to intimacy, the triangles that result from the lack of intimacy and or distance in a marriage, an imbalance of power between spouses, and finally, sexual issues. Craig goes on to compare modern marriage issues with biblical marriages. Though her stance seems to be the issues marriages face today weren't viewed as issues in biblical times, I would have to disagree with this view. She talks about the way Rebecca and Isaac did not have communication in their marriage, and Rebecca ends up lying to her husband and encouraging her son to lie to him as well. Craig states that dysfunction in their marriage was not seen as prevalent enough to merit any comment from the author of Genesis. I would argue the very fact that the author of Genesis goes on to explain the consequences of Rebecca's actions was commentary enough as to show that the dysfunction was a huge deal. After this lie, we see in Genesis 27:45, Jacob had to run away because of Esau's anger, in which he didn't come back until after the death of Rebecca, his mother. So because of her lack of communication with her husband, she not only lost her husband who was dying, but she lost her son as well. Furthermore, just because the author doesn't make any distinct comment about the lack of communication, God himself does tell Moses one of the 10 commandments is, "Thou shalt not lie." Lying is a form of communication, just a dysfunctional one. Other instances Craig acknowledges are not directly spoken about in the Bible fall in line with sex. In a sense, there is no great commandment in regard to how to do it and who should get what out of it. But God does say in Genesis 1:28, "Be fruitful and multiply." So we see it's his will for couples to have sexual intimacy. We also see Paul tell the church in 1 Corinthians 7:5 that abstaining from sex is permissible, but only for a short period of time for prayer and fasting, and to come back together as soon as possible afterwards, lest you get tempted. Regarding the issue of power, we know that selfishness is a sin. And to the one who tries to control everyone and everything in their marriage has an undertone of selfishness. So while we have titles for the issues we face in marriages today, like triangles and lack of intimacy, they have always been issues. The answer to marital issues then, and the answer to marital issues today, though times have changed and though the culture has changed, the answer remains the same. Couples have to take their eyes off of themselves and put their eyes on Jesus. Whenever any individual or counselee has a marital issue, what they really have is a gospel issue. And as Christian counselors, it's our job to point them back and shine the light of Jesus on the situation.